Good morning, Matt.
Rick, how are you, man?
Good, buddy. You know, I'm a little tired because I got a new puppy. Did you know that? I told you
Yeah,
that.
I heard.
I know, and I look like I've been attacked by a baby shark.
I can always tell when you're tired because you tell me things multiple times.
Yeah.
Like my memory goes.
I'm slipping. Doesn't take much. I'm on the hairy edge right now.
Rick, you told me that 10 minutes ago. This is actually the second podcast we've done today.
I got a puppy.
No,
Yeah. You're like, yeah, you just said that.
Yeah, you're that new parent. Got that new baby in the house. No sleep.
Yeah, he's keeping me up at night.
Struggling.
Yeah, first week in the house. So his crate's in our bedroom. So he starts to whimper in the middle of the night.
You didn't let him in the bed?
No,
Held strong?
Held strong. I'm not going to do that. You know me. Train your dog. You know how I feel about dog training. Go back and listen to that.
Get out of my bed.
I'll kill you. No, he's good. But yeah, it's keeping me up late. So it's good.
Good boy.
Yeah, that's right. You got to do it right. You know, it's like anything. It's like working out or anything. You want to do it right. You got to put some effort in.
You should have took one of my dogs.
You know,
I'll give you the one that doesn't even move.
I actually thought
really
about
easy.
that. Right. It's like a doormat. What do you call Matt's dog that doesn't move? Actually, you still call it Matt because it's always there. It's called Matt. But I thought about that because it would have been nice to adopt an old dog because it's a nice thing to do. And they don't do much. So it would have been great. So now I don't have that.
I have a dog that's like dog hospice. It's like hospice. So basically,
what's the F part?
Foster.
Oh, foster hospice.
Yeah. So basically, the dog came to my house to live to die.
Right. God, that sounds depressing.
It's been around for like 2 years.
Really? Yeah. Well, your family's so good with dogs; they probably just extended its life.
I think we did.
God, you're kind of like, wasn't the guarantee that this would be dead within 6 months?
I think we wanted to die, but it's like,
It kind of sounds like you do. But speaking of dying, we're going to talk today about our lens. Speaking of dying, let's talk about how not to die. So we're going to talk about our Alloy's lens on sort of the 3 pillars to be healthy, right? And listen, this is kind of one of those things where it's a business podcast, but at the end of the day, I think it helps to put a stake in the ground and lay claim to what your philosophies are. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And we've talked, in different podcasts about how, just claiming to be like the best workout in town or we burn 1,000 calories an hour, it's a bit of an empty claim. I mean, when you look at, we talked before about the hub of wellness for an individual has a hub, right? And they've got all these spokes and there's, nutrition and supplements and sleep and, stress and like all these things that play into being healthy. And so the best seat to be in is to be able to be the one who sits in that seat of the hub, right? Yeah. And can speak intelligently to technology and all the things around the wheel, if you will.
Be their guide.
To be the guide. Yeah, I like that. That term's perfect. So when we talk about what we believe in through that lens, we're just going to talk today about sort of the 3 big pillars that we see that you need to do. And we're going to do them really in order of importance as far as how we see them. Now you could flip-flop these. Some of these are, interchangeable with what's more important, right? But at the same time, I think it's really important just for any business, if you're listening and you own a gym, just to put your stake in the ground. Like, what do you really believe in, right? Don't chase every trend. Stay away from best workout in town. But what do you really believe in then, right?
Right.
And so for us, first and foremost, we're going to list the top 3. So number 1 would be strength training. And the reason is, we're working with a population typically 45 to 65, right? It's a more expensive service. So we've got like seemingly people that are getting a little bit older. They're more successful. And that means they've probably worked a lot. I mean, you don't normally get into that income bracket being a slacker. Right. And not being a slacker means you work hard. So a lot of these folks have sacrificed their health and wellness, certainly through the 30s with their kids and all, to get to a point where now it's like, I'm out of shape. It's like it's been 12, 15 years. I need to whip myself back into shape. Or I had this surgery. Like, what's going on? Or I went on a hike and about a heart attack. Like, how can I get this back? And so for us, we're specifically speaking to this crowd, and strength training is first and foremost. And the reason is that's what you lose first. Depending on what study you read, and Matt, you can even chime in here if you've got something else to add. But somewhere between, if you have anything to say at all today, Matt, I would appreciate it if you'd jump in there whenever.
I zoned out. What were you saying?
I'm sorry. You're still here? Somewhere between 25 and 30 years old, right, your muscle tissue starts to decline. Didn't you have a metric on that the other day? Because I see
it's like 10% in 30 years or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the most important thing that you can do. And when we say strength training, certainly through the lens of the consumer, often they hear like, oh, powerlifting or getting big. And we just mean doing resistance training. And that just means basic compound movements, right, that stress your body. And it's really important for your skeletal health, for your insulin response, and just for anti-aging. So I just listened to an interesting podcast with Dr. Sinclair. He's a researcher he's Australian by birth, but he's a researcher out of Harvard. And he's one of the foremost, tip of the spear anti-aging doctors in the world. And they
slowing the aging process.
Exactly. Well, and what's interesting is even reversing it in some ways. So he's actually come up with a new, of course, let's promote this guy for him, but he's even come up with a new website. Yeah, no, seriously, it's true. I mean, that's what he's studying basically. And he's studying how you can not only, slow aging down, but in a lot of ways you can actually reverse it. And some of it's chemical, but when they start doing things like measuring the length of telomeres and things like that, and their response to certain stimuli, whether it's chemically, supplementation, strength training, like your outside environment. And of course, strength training is a big one, right? Then they talked on a podcast I listened to ad nauseum about strength training specifically. And he's got some tests that you can go, I think his website is drsinclair.com. And it's just you can register, and he's got this special patented formula where he can give you your chronological, or your biological age. And, you can literally, set get a baseline and measure it year over year and see what's happening. And he's already had the access to do that. What was yours? I haven't done it yet.
Oh, you haven't done it?
It hasn't even come out yet. You got to get on there and just pre-register. I know. I was 24. So that's good. Yeah. That's what I say. I'm going to keep my body in pretty good shape, but there's some things you just can't avoid. And I remember being at the pool one time, and this guy came out to the pool, and he was an older guy, and he's just really built really well, but it wasn't much of a looker, And the lady next to me goes, well, the helmet doesn't match the uniform. And that's going to be me in a few years, right?
What the hell?
I'm going to be that guy in the back of a magazine with this old-ass face and this 23-year-old body. But hey, it's better than an old-ass face and an old-ass body.
I mean, it's so true, though. I mean, I talk to clients all the time, and I we've had clients here that worked out for 30 years. And I'm I always ask them, do you have friends that are your age that, don't work out? Do they look like 20 years older than you? And they're like, yeah, they do. I mean, it's crazy. It really does slow the aging process.
It's quite literally the fountain of youth.
It is.
And so when you look at it, the importance of activities, what type of exercise are you going to do? I think when most people think about, okay, I'm going to start exercising, they think about what? What do they do?
Cardio, man.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start running. And I'm not
boot camps.
Yeah, I'm not crapping on running or boot camps, but at the same time, that's probably the least effective thing that you could do, right? And we've talked about this on other podcasts where the adaptation to cardio activity is to get more efficient at that activity. So if you're running, as an example, if your goal is to run a fast 5K, you just start running. And the first time you run, you're terribly inefficient. You burn a lot of calories and you're really sore. And you get better, which means you get more efficient. So you either run further or you run faster.
And run harder.
Or run harder. But either way, the adaptation means you're better at running. And if you take that lens and you put it over strength training, the adaptation to strength training means more lean tissue, more strength, more bone density, more joint integrity, all the things that go along with strength training, right?
I think the misconception across the board is everything has to be so freaking extreme. I got to go the hardest. I mean, a little had told you about it. Somebody had today that said when they left, they're like, if I'm not sore and can't get out of my chair tomorrow morning, this workout sucked. That's it's not the point,
America.
Right? We're going to do HIIT where we literally blow our shoes off while we're doing our workout so hard that you can't walk out of there. I mean, that's kind of the negative, right? You go that far, then it probably reverses that.
Well, and that's not even, if we're going to get technical, that's not even truly strength training if you're running from one station to the other,
right? Keeping
your heart rate up.
That's just when you make sure it's clear what we're talking about here.
Yeah, no, 100%, because people be like, oh yeah, I did that too. I did some kind of a HIIT class. I'm like, that is not at all what we're talking about. As a matter of fact, that actually can raise cortisol levels, increase your hunger, and actually work against you. So we're not talking about that. Now, that being said, if you do supersetting exercises, which for anyone listening, it's not in the business, if you just move from one exercise to the other, right, you're going to get your heart rate up. So it's not like strength training doesn't have some cardiovascular benefit.
Right.
But to base your entire fitness program on how hard you can work in an hour,
right,
unless you are doing an event that also measures how hard you can work in an hour, like a Spartan race or something, there's no point, right? And so strength first. And what we mean by that is just, again, it's your typical do 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 reps, maybe do some high rep sets every now and then. If you want to do something metabolic, throw a little finisher on the end for 3 to 5 minutes, right? That's all that you need. And that scientifically It will protect your joints. It will help you maintain lean tissue. Again, bone density, all those things. If you do a metabolic type of workout all the time, it's just not going to benefit you at all. And it's at the expense of the true benefits of strength. So when we say strength training, we mean strength training. We don't mean max deadlifts. We don't mean killing yourself. We just mean lifting and challenging yourself with weights that fail between 8 and 15 reps.
Why do people come in strength training anyway? I mean, it's to look better, feel better, and to be able to do what they want to do outside of the gym for as long as possible. I mean, is that not the point? Right?
100%. I mean, like our brand promise to consumers is looking good, because that's a relative term, you know, whatever that means. It usually means weight loss or fat loss, right? Next would be feeling great, which means, okay, I move better, I'm stronger, I got a pep in my step, like my stride length is better, my hips aren't as tight, I can tie my shoes without grunting, right? I can go hit the golf ball and I can hit it further and my back doesn't hurt, great, you know? And then lastly, living life to the fullest. So again, looking good, feeling great, living life to the fullest. And living life to the fullest means if I come to the gym and get stronger and increase my skeletal strength, and I increase, again, my central nervous system firing, all those little things, it's going to make my entire life better. It really is. Like everything I go to do in life, even if it was cardio based. You know, how many people have we had come in here that are training, that are, hardcore runners that don't do strength, that come in, start doing strength training, and then run a PR, right? It's like there's nothing that it doesn't benefit. And when you hear the foremost anti-aging expert in the world say it literally made him biologically younger in the 4 years that he's been doing it.
Right.
You know, when he works with a trainer, and it's funny because he's on this podcast, he's not even an exercise guy. He's just a scientist, right? And he's like, yeah, we do a lot of hip hinging because my trainer said that this guy uses lots of muscles. I'm like, oh, that trainer's probably pretty good, right? So, I mean, it's funny that the things that we've known forever are now proving out in science in a way that we weren't able to measure until scientists like this get into anti-aging, right? And start really digging in.
Well, and it's something we always do and keep pushing, is it's a mindset change. It's thinking about, like, you're doing this again, you'll get in nutrition, but you're eating well to be able to recover and do what you want to do, feel good. Working out is the same type of thing. It's not working out to lose weight. It's not eating to lose weight. It's a total different mindset. And then the way we do it is, kind of describe it like a minimal effective load kind of thing, where we can, don't do it in a fashion we're going to kill you. You can go do all the functions you want to do, because guess what? That golfer you train or that tennis player you're playing is going to get pissed if they're so sore they can't actually go do their sport.
Right.
Which is why they're working out.
Right. And in the income / age bracket that we're working with, people do a lot of things. They play tennis, they golf, they hike, they're very active individuals. And so crushing them in a workout, it's not their entire life. So it's a mistake. No. They want to be better for things outside the gym, and they're intelligent enough to recognize that. So strength first. Next, and this could be first, quite honestly, they're interchangeable, would be nutrition. Yeah. And when we say nutrition, like if we go back to just this Dr. St. Clair, it's, eating less overall, and you guys may have read this at different times, whether it's through intermittent fasting or, less frequent meals, smaller meals, whatever that may be. Eating less is a huge predictor for lifespan overall, right? And it's a strange time for us biologically, as, we haven't evolved to understand that we have like excess calories that are non-nutritious at, that are very inexpensive, that we can get at any time. I mean,
it's America, baby.
Well, yeah, I mean, anywhere in the world, right? Well, for the most part. But if excess. And it makes it hard then. It's a strange for our bodies to not want to, store calories and for a famine that we might have coming up, because we don't have that anymore. We have it anyway. And so it's difficult to then eat right, and certainly eat less. But that is a huge predictor. So whether you have to have 3 meals a day or 6 small meals stokes the metabolism, and at the end of the day, probably not. We've scientifically it doesn't prove out at all. You could skip breakfast if you want. It's not the most important meal of the day. Now listen, this is for the age bracket that we're talking about. If you're like a kid that's got to study for school or pay attention, you probably want some energy, right?
Right.
But if we're talking about average adults, if you have a cup of coffee and don't eat until lunch, just skipping breakfast alone, as long as you get your nutritional requirements throughout the rest of the day, could be a great strategy for you to eat a little less, right? It doesn't take much. It's just turn the dial a little bit and then be patient. I think, we've read this a million times. People overestimate what they can do in a month and underestimate what they can do in a year, right? So it's like, well, let's plan for the long term. Just turn the dial a little bit, make it something livable, right?
Right.
Another thing, another point that we try to drive home is just eat more protein overall. And is there any magic to protein? Well, it is a building block. If you are strength training, it's beneficial, right? It's going to help you build lean tissue. And again, not hulking muscles, just enough to be strong and to serve its purpose, the purpose of strength training. But it also increases your satiety. So what we found is if you just eat enough protein, and a good rule of thumb would be, a gram per pound of desired body weight. So if you weigh 140,
we'll just say lean body mass.
Yeah, lean body mass too. So again, we have an InBody which does accurate body fat testing, but get your body fat tested, try to get a gram per pound of lean body mass, right? That's great. Most people can do that. But you really have to pay attention. So you're going to need to measure food. You're going to need to pay attention. If you do that, then it will increase your satiety. You'll be less likely to overeat candies and cakes and everything else. So great. Maybe eat a little less. Eating more protein can help with that. And it's a building block, right? Yeah. So great. Other than that, eat some fruits and vegetables. I think if you start going down the rabbit hole of keto and this and this and that, it just gets too confusing. And I think when people do that, they can't see the forest for the trees. It's like they're doing, I've often told the story about the lady asking me if carrots would spike her blood sugar, if they were high on the glycemic index. And she was literally had a brownie in one hand and a pina colada in the other. And she was at a party. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure baby carrots aren't your problem.
I always get the apples one. Yeah. Should I eat apples?
Yeah.
I'm like, do you know anybody that overeats apples? Is that a thing?
Right. Did you eat a bushel? Because if you didn't, I think you're going to be all right. Well, it's that kind of thing, right? It's that hair splitting over what does what. And I'm like, and that's fine. And that usually happens amongst people in our industry where you go all in on keto or you all in on paleo or whatever. And I'm sure all of them work. Yeah. But at the end of the day, try to eat a little less, right? Try to make sure you get adequate protein. And then, I guess supplements would fit into this category, right? So what do you think about supplementation?
Well, I mean, it's typical supplements. If you just look at the name, it's to supplement what you're not getting through your diet, which we focus on protein usually first because, yes, we're weight training. We don't want them burning muscle off. So more times than not, we're having to supplement protein. Right. And then our normal things we're deficient in, which is our vitamin D, get a multivitamin, some fish oil. And that's usually where we stop.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, again, this is a black hole that you could run down and never come out, right? But when you talk about collagens and this, and again, if you go study anything from Dr. Sinclair, it's going to be a lot about different cutting edge supplements and what they do. But I mean, when you get on those protocols, it's like you could spend almost your entire life doing research on on everything, and it becomes a little bit daunting. So I would say just keep it simple. You're probably not going to get everything you need from your foods, whether it's the soil quality or however you want to say it. I think supplements are here to stay, and I think it's a smart play, especially as you age. You're not as efficient at processing and digesting foods in the same way. So I would say, like you said, a multi of fish oil, but probably a D3. And then it's going to be difficult for a lot of people to get enough protein in their diet. And so a protein supplement, you can either do a vegan protein if you can't handle whey, or just do a whey. Just keep it simple.
Yeah. Well, we usually focus food first, and then we go in, whenever pushing supplements away. That doesn't make sense.
Right. I know. And so, and just, as far as pre-workouts and fat burners and test boosters and all that, that's all great for some, but at the end of the day, that's if you're doing everything else right and you just want to see if you can move the needle a little bit. But for the most part, stay away from that stuff.
I mean, for just a normal person, right? And this is how we, treat it. Because let's face it, the clients that you normally have in front of you, they got their normal job, they got a family, they can't focus and go crazy on stuff. It's all right, get them moving 2-3 days a week, make sure they're active every day. Nutritionally, it's all right, we're going to look on quality foods. We're just going to turn up the awareness a little bit, get a little more protein in your diet. And just that alone, quite honestly, people will make some great changes.
Yeah, I mean, look at the results we've had lately. It's, I mean, we just run a little internal body fat challenge, and we had somebody lose 24 pounds literally of body fat. Right?
Yeah, it was 24, but I was at 15. But
right, it's 400 pounds in a month. Our programs are amazing. Yeah, okay, I might exaggerate that a little bit. All right, so nutrition.
That's a pound of body fat a day.
And I'm sure anybody's, that's a pretty good calorie deficit, right? That's what alloy programming will do for you. But when you listen to this, if you're a fitness professional, you're like, duh. But I think it's important for you to hear this through the lens of what do we believe in, right? Because if your brand promises 1,000 calories an hour, so be it. I don't like it, but that doesn't mean it's not for you. So go out there and make that your brand promise, but you have to build everything around it, kind of, right? Because it's almost like if you're in the hot dog business, you have to start with a good hot dog. We're in the fitness business, so what is our fitness philosophy? You got to start with that. Right. Then you build the machine that works around it to make that stuff come to life, right?
Right.
And then lastly, so number 3 would just be just movement in general, just lifestyle movement, right? Maybe just lifestyle overall, managing lifestyle. But I think more importantly would be your NEAT calories, which is just an acronym for just moving around more often, right?
Right.
And so here's what we typically see. And I've heard different terms for this, I don't even remember any of them right now because I'm tired, you know me. But there's a million. Stupid puppy. But there's a million terms for, you exercise once a day for an hour, and then the rest of your life is completely inactive, right? And there's 3 or 4 terms for that. But we see that often as well. And
right.
Here's what I'll tell you. If you go to some, workout that claims, so many calories per hour, and you're like, yeah, check that box. That's good. That's better than nothing. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But if the rest of the day you sit in your car for 2 hours in your commute, you sit at a desk, you don't do any standing or moving around, you come home, you have dinner, and you sit on the couch, right? Mm-hmm. You are actually worse off than the lady down the street, a little old lady who's retired and spends all day piddling around the house, gardening, going to the store, going for a walk with her friends. She's smashing your daily activity level and your calorie burn, and she's going to be healthier for it. If you look at the blue zones, which is the areas in the world where people live to be 100 plus years old, concentrations of them, that's one of the main common threads, is that they move around a lot at a low level throughout the day. They don't do cardio. You don't go to Okinawa and see like little old Japanese ladies running down the street in their clogs. I mean, it doesn't work that way, right? Yeah. Oh, let's go run. No. You don't see that, right? You just see people just moving more. It's their lifestyle is set up so that they walk to the store, and then they walk home, and then they garden, and then it's like they just move more. So
we more active lifestyle for sure.
Yeah, we would just tell clients, get out and move. We're like, go for a walk, get a dog, right? I mean, whatever that is, just
get a dog.
Get yourself out and walking and moving. And then lumped into that lifestyle would be sleep, and that's a big one as well.
Yeah.
I'd recommend anybody go and listen to anything from Matthew Walker. I think he's out of Stanford, but he's one of the foremost experts in sleep in general and what all it does to you. And man, it's a big deal. And so from everything from insulin response to stress hormones, all the things that can affect weight gain and general health have a lot to do with sleep. And so, in this day and age with all the electronics and the blue light, and you're up until 11 o'clock on your phone and all that stuff that we're not, again, we haven't evolved into understanding how to deal with it yet.
Yep.
It really is messing us up, right? And so you need to
sleep and recovery and
and it's more than like, hey, I'm going to go get in a cryo chamber, but I'm still only sleeping 5 hours a night because I'm a hard charger. It's like, nah, it doesn't work that way,
Sure.
My friend Allie Gilbert, who's mainly works with men, and she does hormone treatments and all these kind of manages, but she was out of Greenwich, Connecticut forever. So most of her clients were these hard charging 40 to 50 somethings working on Wall Street, right? Yeah. They've been told they need to burn all these calories. So they're doing these HIIT workouts and all these runs and doing all these things. They're burnt out. They're getting very little sleep. The stress levels through the roof.
Right.
And she would get them and they would do blood panels, and it's like cortisol through the roof, right? It's just all these things. So it's like, don't work out for 2 weeks, eat a pizza, like reset your metabolism, get some sleep. It was like we would start there. She would start there to make their life much healthier, which is very unnerving for them. So you think about that type of individual. We get a lot of those people in our brand because, again, it's premium brand. We're attracting those hard chargers, those successful folks.
Everything you just said, it goes back to number one. It's like, that's why those people already live in extreme, less active, but nutty. We can't push them over the edge even more.
Right. Okay. So you're already stressed. You don't sleep at all. You work your ass off and whatever. So here's the thing. I'm gonna get you in here and kill you. 1,000 calories an hour. Metabolic training. Put that heart rate on. If you didn't get
in a corner, shaking.
You didn't spend 1 million hours in this zone, you're not worth your workout worth anything. So that's just a bad idea. And so. Anyway, this is like real high level, real basic for anyone that's in the industry, but I think it would speak to you again. Figure out what you're about, right? And whatever that thing is, just make sure you've got integrity around it, and then build a machine around it, and then take that to market as your business. Not as something that you fall in love with, but once you've identified your customer archetype, build the machine that fits them and what they need and what they like, right? Then take it to market. And I think we have the burden, if you know better, you have the burden to do it with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sometimes easy just to be the next guy up with the workout that even burns more calories, and you just like pile it on and try to
1,001, baby.
Yeah, I go to 1,100 calories in my work, and you just crushing people into dust. But do some things with integrity, and I think over time, we've been in business 30 years. That stuff will prove out, right? And you'll be able to keep clients healthy, moving, again, looking good, feeling great, and living life to the fullest. So what it's all about.
Rock on.
All right, brother. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.